By default, the control panel is located on the right-hand side of your screen. The chat function is reserved for webinar organizers and panelists to communicate with the attendees. Attendees will not be able to chat with each other, however, are encouraged to ask questions. A recording of this webinar will be made available on the SAIEE YouTube channel, SAIEE TV, under the Women in Engineering playlist. You can register to the SAIEE TV. You'll find the link in the chat box. A certificate of attendance will be issued a few days after this webinar. I'd like to introduce you now to our host for this evening, Ms. Machadiso Fosoko, who is the chairperson of the Women in Engineering chapter and has been involved in the research, development and design engineering of high voltage equipment for 15 years as an engineer and engineering manager for an industry leader. She has held positions in the SAIE Central Gauteng Center, contributed to knowledge building on the new classification of transformers in photovoltaics applications, and authored papers for the AMEU and Cigre.
Good evening and welcome to the SAIE webinar on a call for greater investment in women in STEM. Thank you, Mings, for the introduction, and thank you to the organizers of the event, the SAIEE Women in Engineering chapter, and a special thank you to our panelists from the women's groups of the AMEU, Cigre, and Girls for Girls. To our esteemed attendees, thank you for your time, and let's make this discussion one that bets further action, and remember that we want to achieve more in this effort towards investing in women and advancing them in the STEM industry. Please remember to look at our chat for ways in which you can join the SAIEE and how to interact with us, and check out our YouTube pages and our TV channel on YouTube. Also, please download the latest What Now edition that is celebrating women in the month of August. Now that I've taken care of those elements, I would like to say thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I would like to introduce our panelists who have experience in engineering and are industry leaders and have contributed towards the advancement of women and making sure that they leave a legacy behind for women in the STEM industry, and putting policies and processes in place to make sure that these women are heard, they are seen, and they are empowered throughout their careers, and for the next generations to be empowered and to achieve global equality for all citizens of our country as per our Freedom Charter and Constitution. Specifically looking at the SAIEE, which is an institution I'm representing today, we have ways in which we have advanced women in engineering and continue to do so. We have mentorship programs which can be found on the SAIEE website on how to register to be a mentor. So you can become a mentor to a woman in the STEM industry. And you can also do this by networking through chapters and sections. When you're a member, you get the advantage of having access to chapter and section meetings and networking with colleagues from across the industry and across the aisles from the other groups that have similar interests in STEM. We also have education and training, bursaries and scholarships that are awarded according to the demographics of the engineering fraternity in SA, women being still a key requirement for the industry in order to achieve equality. So we have the past president's bursary scholarship, as well as the postgraduate research scholarship. So check that out on our website page. We also collaborate with industry leaders and other women in engineering groups, such as the AMEU, the Cigre, and Girls for Girls, who are present today for this panel discussion. And additionally, to recognize women in engineering and their achievements and contributions to the industry, we do have the special award that we give out yearly at our award ceremony, celebrating the woman who demonstrates above average involvement in supporting the SAIEE with her aims and objectives and her capacity to support and mentor colleagues. So just the ways in which the SAIEE already works towards including women in engineering. And like I said, we have other groups, similar groups that have similar interests and are here present today for our panel discussion to answer our 5 questions on what needs to be done in order to have quality investment in women. So we have policies and processes in place through our human resources departments in various companies and through our policies in government to get women through the door, to get women in the STEM programs at the varsity level, and then to get them in the job place by looking at our demographics and aiming to accommodate women and meeting those demographical requirements. However, our main focus is now to retain those women in those positions once we've gotten them through the door. And our panel discussion with our ladies from Cigre and the other women's group aims to answer those questions. So think on it, think on how your personal experiences have either encouraged you to stay within the STEM industry, to want to do better, to want to attract more women that you know into the industry, and how you've contributed towards that and what you think still needs to be done in order to achieve that and achieve the equality that we aim for. So our first panelist is Naoma Papanyane. She's a chief engineer in the Power Systems Operations and Performance Department within Eskom. She's a registered professional engineer who specializes in power system protection at Eskom Transmission and the system operator in South Africa. Neo has won various accolades during her career, including the Eskom System Operator Employee of the Month in June 2021, the Eskom Millennial Leader of the Year in 2021, and the SAIE Keith Plowden and Young Achiever Award in 2021, and the TransUnion Rising Star in Energy and Environment finalists in 2022. So very welcome to Neo, and Neo, I'm going to hand over to you now to just touch on your experience in the Cigre branch of women's engineering and as an engineer in the STEM industry. Over to you now.
All right, good. Can you hear me?
Loud
Hello?
and clear. Loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Right, so I'm the chairperson of the Cigre Women in Energy, which is a member of the Global Cigre WiE Forum. And our vision locally is to empower, develop, and support South African women in energy to improve their professional skills and thrive in their careers. Right, furthermore is also to promote and encourage young girls at high school level in the Southern Africa to follow the STEM stream. This one is the one that's very close to my heart. And you will see also with the main events that we have heard previously to support, or rather to meet and ensure that we reach our goal, was the panel discussion on jet energy transition. On just energy transition, the theme was navigating through the fog under policy, technical, and financial viability. That was last year in October. And we had a group of panelists there who were women in energy from Southern African electricity, utility, and renewable energy experts. We also collaborate with other organizations that mainly support, or rather encourage and promote STEM. And these photos here that I've shared with you is just to give you an idea of what we have done. So we have also partnered with the Eskom Science Expo, and we participated there and also gave some good, rewards for projects that were promoting the net zero, which is also one of our main theme under the Cigre Global Women in Energy Forum, right? And earlier on this year, we also held a webinar where we're discussing around diversity and inclusivity, which again, I believe is something that we are also talking about nowadays, and it's something that we will be touching on today. So this is all from us, and thank you so much. Really looking forward to this discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Neo, and the fact that you are in the energy space, which I also am in at the moment, is very encouraging, because our main crisis at the moment as a world, as a species, is the energy crisis. And we need to bring more women into that conversation, because nobody understands what it's like to have to take care of children, take care of families at that basic level of humanity and needing the basic resources of survival. And energy is such a key resource to survival, and women across the world deal with that on a daily basis, whether it's fuel to cook food for their families, or it's to keep the lights on and allow the children an opportunity to study in the dark and do their homework in the dark, or just to keep the household going. Energy is very key to every single woman alive today who has responsibilities for their families, be they mothers or other members of the family. And energy is a topic that women should be most loudest about, because we know at the basic level what's needed and how this impacts our daily abilities to do exactly that, to take care of our families. So thank you, Nell. Next slide, please. Our next panelist is Sheila. Sheila is from the AMEU. She's a dedicated individual, and she focuses on self-improvement and knowledge acquisition. Her trajectory showcases her dedication to constant learning and contributions to the field of STEM. She's the trailblazer, advocating gender equality in her role, and through mentoring others and guiding other young girls who want to get into the industry and nurturing their interest in STEM and encouraging them to pursue their ideas and aspirations. Over to you, Sheila, and welcome to this panel.
Thank you so much, Mings, SAIEE, and the organizers of the webinar. Like indicated, I am Sheila Cigre, the chairperson of AMEU WiE. At Women in Electricity, we are dedicated to creating an environment that develops and retains female talent in the electricity sector. Our membership consists of paid-up utility and affiliate members who are committed to promoting women's careers in the electricity distribution utilities and also the related supply chains. At Women in Electricity, we aim to recognize and amplify women contributions within the association and the industry at large. This is in the form of awards and other accolades. And also through our collaborations and partnerships, we provide access to tailored programs supporting women at key career stages through a collective commitment to drive positive change in our sector. These programs include mentorship and leadership development, partnership and networking, international exchange programs. Recently, we just about to join the launch of the utility exchange program together with GIZ and AWEB. And lastly, the talent and development program. Our goal is just to empower women in the electricity industry and create a more diverse, inclusive, and innovative sector for all. More information on our events, programs, and how to join is available on the AMEU website. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you for being such an active advocate for women and encouraging other women to follow in your footsteps and reach beyond in the electricity industry. I'm sure with the recent turnaround of our major utility Eskom in being able to provide a reliable supply for electricity, loads of women have actively contributed to that and have been advocates on solutions that have resulted in what we are seeing which is the no load shedding that we've seen for several months now as a result of these concerted efforts. So thank you very much. Our next panelist is Milia from the Girls for Girls Association. She is the Solar Power Utility employee for over 18 years. She currently is leading and implementing the compliance departments with grids to ensure adherence to the OSH Act regarding GMR policy compliance. She's a mentor and member of Girls for Girls Recruitment Committee. She joined the committee in May 2021 and has led 3 successful high school cohorts in 2022, 2023, and 2024. She's passionate about ensuring that young girls and professionals understand their value in society and the impact on the future, and encourages self-development and continuous learning. Welcome, Milia, and thank you for your contribution to this panel. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tsiri. Good evening to everyone. As indicated, my name is Milia Repinga. I'm the corporate specialist for overhead transmission lines within Eskom. Okay, sorry for that. I'm a corporate specialist within Eskom, and joining G4G as in Project Girls for Girls. The aim, as indicated, I'm very much passionate about development of women and girls within the corporate and even from young age. So having joined G4G, which G4G helps young women develop courage, vision, and skills to take on leadership, public leadership. We believe in the voices of young women and their hopes and aspirations and their power to change the world. We take, as G4G, we take girls as young as 15 years to take them through the modules, which we cover 6 modules within 6 sessions, starting from building trust. We look at courageous leadership. We look at art of communication. We look at how to negotiate. We look at how to run public office. We look at how to be ethical and values in decision making. We understand that for a young woman to succeed and cultivate capacity to lead, they need access to nurturing and supportive environment. And through this mentorship and community building, we can unleash the potential of young women and grow the pipeline of women within the STEM areas. The success of these programs within G4G is through the structured delivery, of which it was contact developed by Harvard University through the ladies that were doing business management, and they saw a gap and they developed all those 6 modules, of which we use mentorship in small circles to create a safe space for the girls, especially looking at how to discuss goal settings, aspirations, and building confidence from there. We also look in terms of young professionals, or in terms of professional women to mentor these girls and women. Actually, as I've indicated, that we take from age of 15 to 30 years. We believe that above 30 years, we are capable to mentor and share our stories in terms of the development of women within our professional areas. So as for G4G, we appreciate the importance of sustainability. So after these sessions when the girls have been mentored, so we don't stop after the 6 sessions, we continue, because we also look at other areas in terms of, there might be areas of financial management or procrastination or other issues that they throw through into the alumni, and requesting assistance to the bigger group of G4G. So of which we also look at G4G as a networking platform where we can also influence within our spaces in our working environment. So we aim to reach over 100,000 mentees by the end of 2025, and we believe that we can do so by ourselves as a small community. In 2017, this program was introduced in South Africa, and it has been going a little bit slow, and I believe that in order to have courageous or confident engineers in a working space, as much as we're over 30 years of democracy, we find that we have been elevated and you are left there with no support. We believe as G4G, you need to be mentored, you need to be nurtured, you need to have that courage to be able to sit in the boardroom and face the challenges that might be there with confidence, really. So through a collaboration with SAIEE, we believe that we can have an increased pool of professional women that can join the mentorship and be able to reach our goal. And we also look in terms of funding, because within G4G, we mentor through online, some we mentor through face-to-face. So with the students in rural areas, we find that they don't have airtime or even data or even connectivity. So that's where the funding, as an NPO, we reach out to say we need funding so that we can be able to reach out to all the girls out there in the country. Thank you very much, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Milia. That was so inspirational, and that is activism in action. And we hope that through this collaboration, many like it, we will reach across the aisle and pull our resources together in order to increase the numbers that we are targeting and meet our objectives of gender equality. So thank you for that. So to the attendees, I have been posting questions on the chat that are the pending questions for this webinar, and I hope everybody has been thinking on the questions that are posted and the questions you had yourselves coming into the panel discussion. So our first question, and it's one that I think all of us have had a think on, is where do you see the biggest opportunity for investment to accelerate women in the engineering industry? So if you have a question or an answer, we will take it on the chat. Please post your thoughts on the chat. We have a moderator, Mpho is from the Women in Engineering chapter for the SAIEE. She will be here to look at your questions and to share those questions and answers with us. But to the panel of ladies that are here today, this question, where do you think is the biggest opportunity for us to invest in women in STEM to make sure that we do achieve our goals of advancing women and retaining women within the industry to create equality and to create different viewpoints for the, the society questions and the society problems that we are facing at the moment. Like we've touched on electricity reliability, we've touched on energy supply, and we've touched on opportunities in general for people of all genders and identification. So I will throw this to the panel, and we can start with anyone who has an answer to this question, or even from our attendees online. Milia, since you're the last to speak, maybe perhaps we start with you.
All right, thanks for the question. I believe that if we target schools' education point of view, as much as there have been investment in education, I don't think we have reached enough schools in the rural areas. We still find schools with no laboratories. And as women engineers, we're saying we want to invest in these young girls, and in order to do that, we need to have laboratories. We need to involve teachers, science teachers into our activities, and like the panel like today, we need to reach out to the teachers so that they can also be involved and raise their concern regarding the science activities that are happening within their space, especially in the rural areas. In urban areas where we have advantage, there is a bit of an improvement, but within the rural areas, there's still a lot of work that we need to reach out to. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Education is key to addressing any societal ills and any societal issues. And while you were answering that, I was thinking to myself that, education in a formal sense and in a technical sense is very key, and having the resources to conduct that education of society is key. But at the same time, we need this sociological aspect to the education in what we teach our children about the roles of women in society and what's possible for women in our society, and how that complements the men and other groups in our societies without taking away from their contributions or their importance in life, but rather it's a complementary thing for all parties in society to actively participate in the economy, participate in contributing towards an advanced society and a thriving society. So social education and technical education and scientific education as a whole. So we need that very holistic approach to education, as opposed to just telling children in class that we are all equal. But we need to foster that at a very young age, to bring in modules that are very particular and specific and deliberate about addressing gender roles and how we view each other as boys and girls at a very early age, and just carry that through from the elementary level all the way to varsity, and have those courses as core courses, and one that one can measure in to say, okay, this is women in engineering as a course at university level, as a major at university level, and how the inclusion of women contributes towards a broader perspective on solutions to engineering problems. Now, Sheila and Milia, your thoughts? Milia has already answered.
Yeah. All right. Let me just get in. But before I get to the areas where I see the biggest opportunities in, I just want to paint this picture, and I'm sure all of us are really familiar with the situation in South Africa, all right? If you really look at now, girls in a secondary school, there are more girls than boys who are enrolled, but many girls drop out. They don't get to finish or to conclude or to finish their secondary education. And if you also look at those who get to finish, I think it's something that we are all aware of. I mean, we see many who lack the proficiency in maths, science, and digital skills, because those are the requirements that are needed for them to enroll in universities, right? We find girls asking us about, I've done this mathematics, maths lead, I'm doing this, and I want to do engineering, all right? And if you really look at the number of girls really that are passing maths for matric, it's essentially slightly less than what boys get to, right? So for me, the key areas really that we really should be focusing on is gender norms. I mean, we really need to look at stereotypes, biases, and a whole lot of things, which I believe these are key or drivers really for low representation of women in this field, right? Gender biases are mainly, or gender norms rather, are set mainly by families, the society, culture, religion, and even also the media. They do actually set some norms and some standards that as a girl child you can't do this. I mean, at this stage you need to be doing this and that and that and that, So this is basically something that I thought perhaps let's have it at the back of our heads before we can actually really get to this, because for me I try to look at this and to say, should we focus on policies maybe, or should we focus on this? But the problem, where is the root? It's starting at school. And I like what Milia has highlighted, to getting to school, because that's something that I am really looking into. And I believe that's where we should start, right? Before we can start really to say, let's focus on women who are in STEM or who are in engineering industry. First, let's increase the number from a pre-tertiary education. Let's do that. And how can we do that? It is basically by integrating STEM activities or any STEM related activities rather into the primary education curriculum. That would be mainly for me, the most critical or significant investment. And we need to get to a point where we expose young girls from a young age to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You know, if you really look at the latest AXA report, it states that only 6% of professional engineers are really registered, right? And if I look at this, for me, it's, I mean, how are we going to make sure that we focus our minds on only 6% or rather 20% or so? I'm thinking we go back and start seeing, looking at how can we expose young girls into STEM? How can we make them to be familiar with the requirements of the subjects that are needed to get into university and stuff? All right. So if we look at okay, getting back to the point of AXA, is that what AXA has reported is that more than 70% of women, they leave engineering, and simply because of the workplace climate. All right. So there's also something that we need to touch on when we start talking about the investments within the engineering industry and stuff to accelerate women. The workplace, it has a lot of things, and it's one of the major things that make a lot of women to leave, right, when we're talking about retention now. So for me, I think what we need to do is to promote more flexible and family-friendly policies in the workplace that will support work-life balance. You know, you have started off by talking by taking care of a family and stuff. And I think in most cases, those are also one of the major reasons why you would find that women leave engineering and stuff. So, and there's so many things, again, that you will realize that we're still fighting patriarchal systems in the workplace. And the main influence, I want to say, it comes mainly from the society, the religion, and culture. So if I were to sum up what I have highlighted, is 2 points that I would like to leave you with is, one, let's promote family-friendly policies and flexible policies that in the workplace that will help support our work-life balance, right? Number two, it will basically be to go back into the primary school level and see how can we integrate STEM in the curriculum, in the primary school curriculum. So those, for me, I think that's where we need to really focus on and invest a lot of our time and money into it if we are to looking into those. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. No, and that was a very holistic look at that problem, and I couldn't agree more with both of your points, investing in the education as well as creating a supportive work environment. Just last week, we had a meeting with the other committee members of the women's chapter, and we were discussing how other countries in Europe are much more successful at retaining women in technical fields, in high stress environments, in high demand environments like sales, because they have these care facilities for aftercare for their children. So to be more inclusive and to help to strike that balance with work and home life, you have this care facility that's within the premises of your work environment, so that once your child gets back from school, you don't have to worry about looking after them, who's going to look after them, what's happening with them. You can check in on them routinely and regularly because they are right there in a safe space, in an environment where you can easily check in on them as much as you need to. So you are not in a rush to get back to them and go check in on them. And the other thing I thought of, and this is a personal experience of mine, is I worked in an industry that required me to do investigations. And I had to wear PPE for these investigations and go into a tank to investigate. And when I got pregnant with my child, I asked the simple question of where can I get maternity PPE? And it seemed to baffle a lot of people why I would expect maternity PPE to be a readily available thing or something that could be accessible because it's never occurred to the managers and the decision makers who were previously male that if someone who is an engineer, somebody who's technical, somebody who engages in production work and investigation work or site work, if they get pregnant, they would need specialized PPE in order to carry on with their duties in a safe way. And instead, I was told that, well, just get a bigger size. And I argued that if I get a bigger size, I'm a very short person, it becomes a tripping hazard and it's not practical. A bigger size is not as maternity PPE. And that was just a basic example of the things that our companies and our institutions haven't yet thought of because they haven't had women decision makers. And as soon as women get to their 30s or to the age where they feel that they are in a position to start families, they generally feel the need to sacrifice their career life. So they exit field work, they exit production work in order to help and go into the managerial positions or the human resources departments where they don't have to argue and fight for their right to exist in a safe environment for things like PPE. So thank you very much for that perspective. Sheila, your thoughts?
Thank you, Tidi, for the question. I'd say in my case, it would be two things. One is skills development, that hands-on experience at a very young age. Expose our girls to the world where the imagination is turned into reality. We also have to influence, because as companies, we cannot directly change the school curriculum, but we need to look at how we can actually influence this somehow to be able to instill this at a young age. Because remember, children are born curious and they observe and experiment. So nurturing that and encouraging that curiosity at a young age is vital. I'll also agree with Nero in terms of workplace culture and also the support systems. I've had a chat with a friend of mine who actually has just returned from maternity leave. In her company, she says she was actually amazed to learn that her manager is unaware that after maternity leave, when you return to work, you have to express. And when she requested time, about 15 minutes to go and express, she was allowed to, but then the facilities weren't conducive for her to do that. And then she was requested to do that in the restrooms, which is also not comfortable. So if we can actually promote that inclusive work environment and offer work, flexible work arrangements, and provide maybe daycare facilities and other family-friendly benefits for women to be able to thrive in the energy industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, for those thoughts and perspective. And yeah, speaking on the issue of things like expressing and being able to accommodate new mothers, it's a little bit of investment that will result in loads of benefits for the employer. Yes, it may require a bit of capital investment, but in the long run, you become this very attractive employer because you have facilities that take into account that you have a diverse workforce, and you accommodate that. And I think the modern woman requires more, demands more, wants more. They know their worth, and they know the basic resources and facilities they should have access to in order to be able to just go about their daily business. I think a long time ago, several decades ago, there was probably a time when people thought that having sanitary product disposal systems was a big issue, and now we have them in our bathrooms, and it's a small investment that allows your female workers to be able to come to work and go about their business as usual, and retaining women by just making these small adjustments to our existing facilities will benefit everyone, because then people can be comfortable enough to spend more time at work as required, and be more productive at work, because you're not worrying about these basic issues that were not taken into account because the systems, the places, the spaces were not designed with women in mind. I know from our audience that we do have males in the audience, so please, we want to bring in men into this conversation, because they are our partners, and they are people who are still largely in positions of power, and they need to co-champion the efforts towards bringing women into the industry and retaining those women in the industry, and making sure that we have a safe workspace for everyone that is accommodating to our needs. And in addition to that, men talking about this will give more credence and weight towards things like paternity leave. Paternity leave benefits everyone just as maternity leave does, because then you have this change in mindset that both parents are equal partners in raising the child. And as a result of that, the dynamics in relationship shifts towards equality within the relationship, and more women can, attend to their jobs, attend to their careers, because their partners and their husbands have equal opportunity to be caretakers of their children, as well, as opposed to that whole responsibility being exclusively for women, and thus disadvantaging women in a different kind of way. Okay, so the second question that we are very much interested in and thinking about for this webinar is, what changes have you seen in recent years? And when it comes to investing in women and girls, what progress still needs to be made? Ladies, your thoughts? What have you seen and what still needs to be made? Personal experiences would be really beneficial in this instance, and anything you've personally been involved in. I think, Melia, you've touched on some of the initiatives that you're involved with that have really benefited the movement and the objectives of equality in the workspace and in STEM in particular. Over to you, Melia.
Thank you very much, Siri. We still see a lot of gender bias within the executive levels. There's been a lot of changes in terms of pushing women to balance their gender equity, but then they forgot the support that comes with promoting somebody and putting somebody at a specific position. So you still get a lot of those. I'll make an example where you find that a man will say, "Ngimzulu mina." So, and you're like, okay. And you get to the point that if you are not coached well, if you are not given that mentorship, or even to be courageous, to be able to stand your ground and be able to say, I'm here as a leader, and I'm not here as a woman or as a man. So we're still having that issue where we're still seen as we need to be in the kitchen, we need to be home, our voice shouldn't be heard. So there have been a lot of improvement in terms of balancing the gender, but the support that comes with that promotion where you are sitting, it has been lagging behind. I believe if we put KPIs within other executives to look in terms of mentoring and coaching, as I'm with G4G, I'll talk more about mentoring, of which we have seen a lot of women growing in terms of the programs that we put in place, having a voice, being able to negotiate their salaries, because salary gap is also being an issue that's really even now is still a big struggle in terms of balancing between the male and the female workers within the environment. So I think from that angle we need to push more. They've been gender equity, we are happy about that, but we still need support behind all these promotions that we're seeing within the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Milia. I like your example about someone saying, I am this, and therefore this is what I expect from a woman. Whereas at the workplace, you are really a colleague. You're not anyone's woman. And that shouldn't be a language that's acceptable in their workspace. And this is one of the things I think about often, that we need to change the language of professionalism. We are very good at identifying unacceptable language in terms of aggressive and violent and, foul language that's already established. But we have these microaggressions that result from people behaving in a particular way and using certain words that are ordinarily not offensive, right? Saying that I'm a Zulu is not offensive. We are South Africa, we are a multi-cultural society, and that's great. You're a Zulu and I'm whatever I am, but at work, I'm your colleague and your peer, or even your manager in some instances. And there has been instances where that's been said to a person who is a senior to that person that's saying those things. And we need to look at that language and how women don't respond well to that kind of language. As offensive as that language is ordinarily, there's also just the microaggression and the severity of words that are otherwise not offensive. But as women, we cannot have, what do you call it, ballsiness or too much confidence being presented to us, because then it's a bit intimidating. That is not to say that we are not confident, or we cannot stand our ground, or we cannot speak for ourselves, but we feel that we could be the victims of violence that is gender-based, and this can happen in the workspace as well. And that is a type of verbal assault for somebody to say that to you. But you are quite right. We have had programs that have tried to address that, and we do have HR policies that are moving towards those goals of making sure that our language takes into account the demographics that we find in the workspace and how we can safely interact with each other and put our points across without being violent towards one another and being aggressive in a way that is not conducive to the workspace. Sheila, your thoughts?
Thank you for the question, Matsiriso. When we look at the changes that we've seen in recent years, we've seen a rise in women-led businesses and initiatives that support women entrepreneurs. Just today, I actually learned that the CEOs of all 3 aviation wings are women, and that is evident enough that we have achieved a lot. Yes, there's still a lot to be done. From my experience having started as an apprentice electrician, I would say most of the stereotyping has shifted a bit, but we still find that unconscious bias. And I would say it's not actually coming from a bad place. It's unconscious, where the colleagues would be like, okay, because you are female, let me do it. But we are employed from the same job description and from the same qualifications. And when they were employing us, they weren't employing Sheila the female, but they were employing Sheila the technician or the women don't.
Sheila, we're losing you there. I think Sheila is having some connectivity issues, but just to continue on where she left off, yeah, so the unconscious bias is really detrimental to confidence building. We all get better with exposure and with opportunity. You cannot expect anyone to be an expert in anything that they've never been exposed to or given the opportunity to participate in or engage in or be responsible for. Leadership, you're not just born a leader,
Education.
you learn. Sheila, are you back online?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Okay, we lost you there for a second. Please continue.
Okay, there's also been an increased focus on education. Sir James once said, if there was a magic bullet to successful development, it could be summed up in 2 words: educate girls. This has been spoken about earlier, where more girls are completing secondary schooling and entering tertiary institution. But when I looked at the numbers, these numbers are still very low. We are looking at 22% in Africa, and out of that 22%, only 10% pursue further education. And the major contributing factor to this is actually child marriages, which is about 41% of girls are marrying at the age of 18 in Africa. So yes, more still needs to be done, as women still face several key challenges in the energy industry and other industries. That includes unconscious bias, limited workspace, flexibility, and stereotyping. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila, for that alarming statistic on child marriages in Africa, which remains one of the real bane of existence of women in Africa, and not having the option to say no to those marriages, and sometimes even doing that for protection in war-torn countries and regions. Noah, same question, your thoughts?
All right, yeah, I'll just be short on this one because a lot has already been highlighted. But yeah, just to highlight as there are undoubtedly more women advancement and mentorship programs in most companies. I mean, just as we're looking in this panel now, already there's like 4 of us. We all coming from Women in the Energy Forum, which forms part of a particular organization. You go to the workplace, there's mentorship programs, there's women advancement programs and stuff. There's a variety of them, and even at high school level, I mean, there are a lot of things that have been done and stuff. So on that case of what changes I've seen in recent years, I'd say a lot has been done, and this we can also look at it from the number of girls graduating. I mean, if we're looking at overall in Africa is about 47%, right? So it's still not high enough, but I think it is a good number. And for me, it still says we are among the highest in the world, all right, if we're comparing with other countries overseas and stuff, right? And I mean, if you also look at the discussions around the subject, you look at forums, you look at a whole lot of things. There's really a lot, but I just want, for me, really in this, what needs to be done without repeating what Milia has said, which is the support of women after you have promoted them to a leadership role and stuff. That's a greatest thing. I think that needs a really much work there. There's also another point that have already been highlighted, and I just want to sum it up by saying, I think the world was created for men. If you really look at it, the world was really created for men. And for me, I just want to say, what needs to be done now is really to get to a point where we relearn, or if I can use this word, but to educate people again on the changes that are happening. I mean, if you look at earlier in let's talk around the 60s. We look at the era of when we around 90s, and now we can see how things changed, right? From the times when women were were stay-at-home moms. The role was to nurture and build homes and stuff. That was a norm that time. And then as soon as we got to the 90s and stuff, that's when we started having a lot of women now getting into the industries and starting to follow certain careers and stuff. And now it's even getting worse that we have women who are in leadership roles and stuff. The numbers really, yes, are not that much, but for me is, I don't think we as and when I'm saying we, I just want to, I'm talking about both men and women, is that, or rather mainly men, is that we have not moved with the times. We're not moving with what is changing and stuff. So a lot of things are still being done the way things were done in so many, the way things were done many years ago and stuff, all right? If we can get to a point where we see a lot of things done by men being normal as a society, as people, then I would say really we're getting somewhere, you know, because I think that's where another major issues are, because we talk about unconscious biases and stereotypes and stuff, you know. A lot of things that are happening, they're coming from the fact that to them it doesn't seem wrong, because this is how I grew up. This is how I raised. This is, if I would just share a brief personal story. Growing up, I remember I have a younger brother. So I grew up with my brother. So it's me and my brother. So what would happen is every time my mom wanted to teach me something, or she would ask me to do something in the house, her reasons were, I'm teaching you so that when you get married, right, you need to know how to wash dishes, because when you get married, this, you need to know how to clean, because when you get married, this. And every time I would ask, but what if I don't want to get married? Well, I'm married now, and all right, but at that point in time, the question was, but what if I do not want to get married? And I would always ask to say, I mean, for my brother, what if he doesn't get married and he has not learned to do all these things that you're teaching me to do, right? Yes, obviously, you know how we raised it. It would get to a point where like, no, don't answer me back, don't do this and da. But I think from that age already, for me, I felt that at that point, I mean, the upbringing that the upbringing that girls get exposed to is that you are being prepared for this, you're being prepared for this, and boys are being prepared for this. And it's something that I still, when I go back to say, we need to get to a point where we really move with the time and re-educate ourselves and really relearn, if I can use that, to say we need to realize that things have changed. I mean, girls are now doing things that we thought they would not do, and we have to really educate. I don't think people are old to be taught. So even as old as people are, they can still be taught. And in cases of us mothers who have boy child, we need to really also start, teaching them that you also have to learn how to do this. You also need to learn how to do this, learn this and that. For me, it's more about the societal expectations and the whole workplace being, just, if you look at it, it's just being designed for males. I mean, the whole point, the other point that was raised about expressing. I mean, I've experienced a similar case, just that for me, I mean, the work where I'm based, our office is a closed office. So, and luckily there were no other means of where people would see me and stuff. So I would just lock the office, close the blinds, and express. After that, I'll take my milk, put it in the freezer, and then 4:30 when I'm leaving, I just take my cooler bag and I go home. all right, and I have milk for the following day, and and it really didn't feel like something that okay, maybe I need to fight this and stuff. That was simply because for me at that point in time, it was in the comfort of my own office, and it was really private. I didn't really have any issues with that. But hearing other stories, and you realize really that these are the things that needs to be taken care of. These are the things that we have to really fight. And I don't know, I really believe that with time and maybe the next generation, we will not be discussing this, all right? And the other thing I think for me that I also want to go back to is, again, with young girls, we highlighted young girls here and stuff. I would love to get to a point where I see toys being toys, right? Without toys being, in a way, this is for boys, these are for girls, right? You still go to a shop when you need to buy. I don't have a girl, but I always still see dolls. I still see, sometimes when I'm walking around the mall or whatnot, they dress like princesses and stuff. And I'm not against that, but for me is, there should really be toys that they can play with, the same that boys are playing with, that would make them believe and learn that they can still be scientists, they can be engineers, they can be mathematicians and stuff at that stage. Because I mean, we get to buy our boys PS5s and stuff. I'm just making an example. Mine doesn't have. So we get to buy such things. They play with those things at this level. And the girl child is still playing with their doll. The only time they're going to start thinking, every time we're thinking, these games are for boys. And even now, I think as married women and stuff, we still believe that this game is for my husband and my son and stuff like that. Do you ever sit down and play and say, okay, I'm playing this game and stuff? I think one person got shocked when I started work, and I said I wanted to buy myself a PlayStation, and they looked at me like, what? I was like, I want it. I mean, what's wrong with it? So I think up until we get to the point where when you say something, people don't look at you like you're weird, or what's wrong with you? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing this? Then for me, that's when I would say, really, we have made progress. But apart from this, I also want to still applaud that the efforts that are being made in terms of advancing women. We can't really put that aside, but we do really need the support. Right, thanks.
Thank you. And now you touched on so many ideas and thoughts and principles that I was thinking of to sum out this question. And you are quite right. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and from a very early age, I bought her toys that would have been classified as boys' toys, and I also bought her dolls, and she liked both. So she played with whatever she felt like playing with, and I went with that. And if she gravitated towards one type of toy more than the other, then I would get her more of that because that's her interest. And that's part of not telling women what kind of a woman to be, what kind of a girl to be. If they like the social sciences, let them go to that. If they like the STEM and technical sciences, let them do that as well. But I think what you have all touched on, ladies, is that we need a really intensive social education drive towards re-educating people. And even in the workplace, I think, Milia, you touched on KPIs for managers and for leaders to say that, you know what, we have this program to educate people on gender equality in the workplace, and not just as a basic entry-level idea to women and men are equal, but rather to women have these needs. And, you know, women are people who menstruate, and they have instances where they need privacy and they need to be excused. It is not for anyone to take advantage of that and exploit that. And we know people do that, but it is more towards creating a space where people can be functional in their work environment and not need to take unnecessary time off in order to attend to that privately because they don't have facilities for that in their immediate workspace. And you've also touched now on the fact that we are not really seen as people who have fun. And you saying you getting a PlayStation for yourself, you're splurging on a PlayStation for yourself was alarming because that's generally something that's associated with men. But like you are saying, from a young age, we are very comfortable with boys being exposed to video gaming, which can be a career on its own. You know, you can be a full-time gamer and go to competitions and be a world star in that. And it's really fascinating. And it's creativity, it's thinking, it's critical thinking, it's, you know, analysis and analytics. And that's interesting as well. And we have a PlayStation in the house, and my daughter plays with it from time to time. I don't enjoy it myself personally, but I'm perfectly fine with her using it. And we've also touched on the fact that we have had a lot of initiatives and we're moving in the right direction. But I think more men need to get comfortable with speaking in the language that is very technical about what women are and what women go through, and being comfortable with understanding that menstruation is not a dirty word, pregnancy is not a dirty word, and making sure that your women employees and your women colleagues are taken care of in that way will result in increased productivity for your company as a whole, which will benefit everyone. And also just raising independent adults, not independent women, but independent adults. A man who knows how to cook and take care of himself and take care of his family, look after his children without much intervention from his wife or partner. And also a woman who can do the same and change the light bulb, you know, fix things around the house.
Is that my network?
Yes, Machadiso, we've just lost you briefly there. Can you hear me? Okay, I think, excuse me, ladies, I think Machadiso is just having a connectivity issues. Let's go to the other question that she's posted here. Umpo, would you like to take over? Umpo?
Afternoon.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Mims.
Yes, would you like to pose the next question to the ladies?
Okay, so ladies, my question to you is, what does this year's theme mean to you personally, and why is this important to you?
If I may, for me, this year's theme is a powerful reminder. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I
I'm
can.
sorry for that. My computer just died on me. I'm joining on my phone now. Thank you,
No
Mpo, for
problem.
taking over. Please continue. Apologies, attendees. Apologies to the panel.
Okay, thanks, Tidi. It's just a reminder that the call to invest in women and their development, which was received 30 years ago, remains as critical today as it was then. We must know that it does not seek to belittle or erode the importance of men in society. but rather a lifelong development and partnership. It also prompts one to reflect on the progress made and the strides still needed to ensure that our investment in women doesn't just stop at the initial stages. How we think of ourselves, I'm just gonna zoom into ourselves as women. How we think of ourselves has everything to do with how our world sees us. For the world to invest in us, they need to be able to see a rich ground. Personally, having started work 24 years ago, I have benefited from an enabling environment where my career and talent were nurtured and grown through mentorship. It was important to note that retaining this talent is just as important as nurturing it. Now, the big question was, did I see myself the same way my mentor saw me? Did I realize the potential I had at the time? And I think that's the one of the contributing factors of retaining the talent and ensuring that we remain in the boardroom is how a person sees themselves. So for me, the importance of this theme is having discussions on what competences do we need to remain in the boardroom. We need to educate ourselves, read, and be informed about things that are happening around us. And also, we should have discussions amongst ourselves on how to transform our mindsets and also programming these stereotypes and biases to our children unaware. We also need to change our attitude and focus our attitudes towards growth and also determination to inspire others. If I can just share my observation around the workplace in terms of maybe the attitude towards growth. You see, there are those undeclared or not explicitly defined tasks. Where this comes with the new technologies or the new norms that are happening in and around us and the new systems that are coming in. And you find that this task has never had to be done, but now it calls for it to be done. And if you are approaching a person to say, let us do this task, because when you are viewing it as a learning, an opportunity to learn something, whereas the other person is just questioning what's in it for me. Am I gonna get overtime for this? Am I gonna get money for this? What am I benefiting? Yet the benefit is just hidden in terms of attitude. So I guess we also need to have a look at ourselves and work towards our positive attitude towards growth. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can add also, if you look at, all right, thank you. If you look at there's a lot of progress that have made in human development, but I think with fourth industrial revolution, as we lacked a little bit in terms of attending to the boys and the girls, in terms of the social pressures that comes with what's happening out there. It's a bit of lack of self-awareness that I'm picking up within the young, within the youth, if I can say so, high school kids, to the point that I think with this freedom came a lot of pressure, of which really, as much as there's been a lot of development in women, these kids comes with a lot of pressure and a lot of entitlement, of which really, that's why as G4G we're trying to correct that, for the girls to really understand that when you set up your goals, you understand your why behind what you're doing with your life and have a purposeful life. Because at times you get kids writing letters wanting to commit suicide and all that, which really it's a thing that I've seen lately that is being on increase. Where if they have challenges, they want to give up. So it's where we come in as women. We have empathy by nature of being women, but the youth lately lack a lot of discipline. That's why mentorship plays a very important role in terms of shaping these young generations. Thank you.
Right, just be brief. In terms of what this theme mean to me personally, or why is it important? I just thought this, which is something that I once had in one of this conferences and stuff, that like crayons, we are all important if you want to paint a beautiful picture. And this for me, it was just looking at each and every person in the workplace has a role. It may be as small as, or as if you think about that white crayon, when you buy that 12, a box of 12 crayons, there's always a white one, which we ask ourselves, when am I going to use this, or why do they always put this white one and stuff? And for me, I look at that, I'm looking at it from that perspective to say we're all important, and each and every one brings their own intellect, their own strengths and stuff. That diversification, it becomes important in reaching or rather in getting this beautiful picture that we're looking at. And for me, that's what I take out, what I actually thought of when I look at this theme. It takes me off from that issue. That issue of having individual traits that we all need to get to reach our objective or our goal. Thanks.
Thank you, Nell, for that. So yes, I think we have covered most of the questions that were asked at the beginning on what the greater calls for investment in women means to us. And I think we don't have to run through all the questions that we have asked ourselves, but rather we could have the question and answer session with our audience. So Mpho, if you can see the questions on the chat from the audience members, could you please share them here for us to discuss on the panel?
Machadiso, she is having some issues with the questions. If you like, I can just ask the questions or read the comments.
Yes, please go ahead, Mings. Let's take the first question.
Yes, we've got a comment here from Yolanda Bakir, who says, what approach will be most feasible to grow female engineers? Select a secondary school or schools in a district per province and practically mentor or to support female learners with strong academic skills. What do you think of the suggestion?
Thank you, Yolanda, for that question. And I think your idea is one that would really help in terms of it being a case study. If we were to select a school in a region and, just assign mentors for that school from grade level all the way to varsity and see how that results in our intention of having equal numbers in women and men in the STEM industry, and retaining those mentors and making sure that not only do we have engineers, but we have engineering managers in the industry and at higher levels of the STEM industry. So I think as a case study, doing it that way would shed a lot of light into what actually we need to be doing and where we need to be investing more in terms of achieving that. But in the long run, obviously dedicating such numbers of mentors to a specific region may not necessarily be feasible. But I think if we look at the examples of EXA and SAIEE, where we connect mentors with mentees, we could do something similar at a school level and see how that benefits us in terms of getting women interested in STEM and just entering the STEM industry. Ladies, the same question to you guys.
Yeah, I would like to come in there, and for me, I think that that proposal or comment rather from Yolanda is, there are so many things that comes to mind when I think about it, Yolanda, and I wish we could, engage and after what I'm going to say, I wish I would get your response to it. One, when we talk about mentorship, right, there's something that I would like to highlight, and this is a challenge that I've experienced. I'm a millennial, right? And we are talking now about the people who are in high school now. I think they're the Gen Zs, or Z rather, and we're coming from two different worlds. We're coming from two different setups. Amelia has highlighted the higher rate of suicide and stuff like that. I mean, there's so many things that I believe personally that they are having so many things easy. There are so many things that are at their disposal and they don't know how to use them, right? But the point I wanted to highlight is, if I were to go and mentor a 16-year-old now, we are gonna have two different thinking. We're gonna not see things the way, right? And my proposal in this regard is always, and it's something that we wanted to try back in our township in Welcome, Free State, which was to look at a 3-tier structure to say, to bridge the gap of the age gap between this generation, the millennials, the 80s and the 2000s. Remember, in between you've got the 90s and stuff. How about the professionals mentor the students and the students mentor the high school learners, right? In that sense, they can still relate. I mean, that's the first challenge, right? I want to highlight with when it comes to mentorship, especially when you're mentoring these young people. Number two, I also want to say, I'm getting to a point where I'm thinking that we are really starting to take the responsibility that is not ours. Where is the Department of Education in this discussion? What is it that they are doing? If I were to stop my work and go and mentor young children and staff, where is the Department of Education? What is it that they are doing, right? Why can't we look at collaborating and once in a while we go there and stuff? What is the role of a teacher now when it comes to setting up or being role models to these kids and stuff, right? Maybe I'm thinking too much at primary level, I don't know. I mentioned that STEM integrating STEM related activities into the curriculum, simply because I personally believe that if it's integrated into the curriculum, then we push this to the organization, or rather the department that is really responsible for this. And it might sound like it's a contradiction or whatnot, but I think sometimes we also need to get to a point where where are we going to draw the line? Yes, we want to help, we want to be there, we want to mentor and support and all that, but I believe we still need to also put into the discussion the role that the teachers are playing, the role that the department is also playing. The third point also that I want to bring for discussion on the same thing is Okay, it's this to say, if you mentor, sometimes we select a place where we're going to mentor, right? There's a lot of challenges. Often you find that people that we are mentoring, they do not have phones, they do not have access to the internet, they do not have this. Hence, when I started, I highlighted the situation in Africa, in South Africa, and the point was basically to take us back and remember that we are one of the countries where the gap between the rich and the poor is so high, and in this case is I will be mentoring someone who is in Welcome. Let me make an example with what I've tried in the past. You send the person a message, you say, can we talk, when can I call you, and that they're sharing a phone with their mom, and they can only send you messages certain times. You don't get to see them. When you see them and say, can I call, they don't see that. So there's so many challenges with that. For me, to be honest with you, all that I would like to say is perhaps we need to look into how can we collaborate with the Department of Basic Education or Higher Education and see how do we get to encourage and support and promote the STEM in that. I don't think it's solely our responsibility to really be going there and investing in 50 female who will go and mentor young girls and so I don't know, but that's personally what I think, and it might be really somehow coming across as though is a contradiction and stuff, but I think we need to really look into that. How do we collaborate? How do we work with other organizations that are fully responsible for this, right? How can we integrate? How can we make sure that engineering, there's talks around robotics, programming and coding and stuff that's being introduced. For me, it's a first point of how do we introduce or how do we take this engineering to young people, right? Great, but again, you find that it comes with a cost, because for your child to be part of that particular program, it means they are in a private school. But in public schools, is there robotics in grade 1? Is there coding in grade 1 or grade 2? Still lacking, and that's why I feel that we really need to be on to face, or rather to get to a point where we're directing this to the right people that will make a change that will benefit the majority, right? So for me, yes, that can be done, but there's a lot of things that we need to consider. And in this case, the quicker way of doing it is really to make sure that the curriculum is changed, and our education system in general should really be reviewed. That's where I'm thinking. That's what I think.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Nero. I think you've touched on a number of things that we ought to be looking at, and on a grander scale at grassroots level, and investing more from an executive point of view of our government in education and providing the necessary resources. Mings, I think we will take the second question.
Yeah, there's just a last comment here, again from Ms. Yolanda Bakir, who's saying a discussion with the Department of Employment and Labour Inspectorate, DOEL, with EXA and support organizations to advocate for female engineers can be helpful, especially with regards to the facilities regulations and environmental regulations in the workplace. This is related to what Amelia was discussing, or yourself, Chair, about breastfeeding at the workplace. And this is when she posted her comment.
I absolutely agree. So making these requirements part of the OHS policies and mandating that companies have these facilities, and not as a nice to have, but as a standard requirement for health and safety. Completely agree with that. Is there any other question on that?
No, there's no more questions.
On the topic? Sorry. Okay. Thank you for the panel. Thank you for the attendees for being here. And we hope that this conversation gave you food for thought and a lot to think about. And if you want to engage with us and continue the discussion and be an activist towards achieving greater investment in women and equality in general, please visit the various groups that we represent. The SAIEE details are on the chat, and the other panel members have also highlighted the details of how they can be reached. And you can also just do a Google search on the AMEU, Cigre, and Girls for Girls and their initiatives in addressing the equality issue. Thank you very much, Mings, for your assistance, and Mpho from Women in Engineering. If there's nothing from anyone else, I wish you a good night and thank you for attending this webinar. It will be available on our YouTube channel, that's SAIEE TV, and you can filter with Women in Engineering.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ladies.
Nix. Any final thoughts?
Thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time listening to this great conversation. And I hope we do this soon and to take this conversation further. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.